the United States history and United States history. That's question, solve, and explanation. All right, so we'll be looking at uh, how questions are, how we see questions under this history, and how we can actually understand and interpret these questions for us to be able to know what exactly we are to answer and how to answer them. All right. So moving on, we have European exploration. All right. So we have European exploration of the Americas. All right. So looking at these questions, the question is based on European exploration of the Americans, right? So let's see how they ask questions based on that history. We have directions here says, read the following passage and then answers the question. So 19th September continued on and sailed day and night. So at 5 leagues experiencing a calm, wrote down 22. This day at 10 o'clock, a pelican came on board, and in the evening another. These birds are not accustomed to go 20 leagues from land. Now, why we're actually looking at these questions is the fact that um, under this European exploration of the Americas, the question there, they gave it as a comprehension. They gave a passage where you need to answer question based on the passage that has been given. All right, so so this is the passage that I've been reading, and they said it is an excerpt. If you look at this, they said it is an excerpt from Christopher Columbus' diary of his voyage in 1492. So let's look at this passage and we'll answer questions based on this passage. So it drizzles without wind, which is a sure sign of land. The admiral was unwilling to remain here, beating about in search of land, but he held it for certain that there were islands to the north and south, okay, which in fact was the case, and he was sailing in the midst of them. His wish was to proceed on to the Indies, having such fair weather, for if it pleased God. So as the admiral says, we shall examine this part upon our return. Here, the pilots found their places upon the chart. The reckoning of the Nina made a 440 league distance from the Canaries. That of the Pinta 420, that of the Admiral 400. So this excerpt, right from Christopher Columbus' diary of his voyage in 1492, we are to look at this excerpt, read this excerpt, and to answer questions on this excerpt. Okay, so if you move on, you see questions on the excerpt that says, indicates an X next to the statement that helped Columbus know that he and his crew were nearing land. That means we should put in an X next. That is why we have the dashes. That way we have this dash that has been created. Okay, we have this dash that has been created. So we will put in an X on those dashes to the statement that helped Columbus know that he and his crew were actually moving closer to land. All right. So we have the first one that says they sailed day and night. Two pelicans landed on the boat. On the boat, rather, the admiral wanted to keep sailing. There was a light rain with no wind. So if you look at if you look at the passage, if you look at it, it says 19 continued and sailed day and night, 25 leagues experiencing a calm, wrote down 22. So we are to pick out the one that actually moved in to the excerpt from the Christopher Columbus diary. Okay, so moving on, if you look at it, it says they sailed day and night. Two pelicans landed on the boat. On the boat, the admiral wanted to keep sailing. There was a light rain with no wind. So we'll look at where we have these, the answers and the explanations that comes with it, how we can answer. So these are the type of questions we can actually see when it comes to GED examination. All right, so these are the questions we can actually see, and for these questions, we need to understand the passage correctly, understanding the passage, interpreting the passage correctly, and looking at it, we need to put in the right notes and the right tick. For here, they said indicate an X. That means you should pick up an X and write an X in each of the lines that we have here. So we said they sailed day and night. 2 pelicans landed on the boat. The admiral wanted to keep sailing. There was a light rain with no wind. Now, if you look at the answer here, it said indicate an X next to the statement that helped Columbus know that he and his crew were nearing land. So the X there that was meant to create, sorry for this mistake. So the right one to put an X is 2 pelicans landed on the boat and there was a light rain with no wind. Okay, that was how they know. It was these 2 that is being correct, that is being ticked as if it's correct. Yeah, 2 pelicans landed on the boat. There was a light rain with no wind. So those are the 2 things that made them know that they were what? They were nearing the land. Okay, so the remaining 2 were not. If you look at the explanation, they said the sighting of pelicans was significant because these birds are known to fly far from land, suggesting land was what? Nearby. So the drizzle without wind is noted by the admiral as a sign, as a sure sign of land. Sailing day and night and the admiral's desires to keep sailing are unrelated to determining proximity to the land. And if you look at it here, you could see. So we said the correct one here is 2 pelicans landed on the boat and there was a light rain with no wind. That was how they know that they were actually nearing the land. And we could see that as well if you look at the passage as well. Okay, it said these birds are not accustomed to go. If you look at the second line that says, this day at 10 o'clock, a pelican came on board, and in the evening, another. So that makes it 2 pelicans. All right. So these birds are not accustomed to go 20 leagues from land. So that means it shows that, okay, there is a land nearby. That means they are actually nearing a land. Okay, so then it said it drizzled without winds, which is a sure sign of land. So those are the 2 things that we could see that yes, they are actually nearing the land. So we've actually looked at question 1. Now let's look at question 2 that says, what is the meaning of the word league as it is used in the passage? Let's go back to the passage that says, okay, let's look at where leagues have been used. Okay, we have the first line that says 25 leagues. Okay, and if you look at the third line as well, 20 leagues. So they have been asking us here, what is the meaning of the word leagues as it is used in the passage? 25 leagues. They continued on and sailed day and night. 25 leagues, experiencing a calm. Okay, then looking at the third line, they said these birds are not accustomed to go 20 leagues. All right, then if you look at the last line as well, second to the last line as well, they said or third to the last line, said here the pilots found their place. Here the pilots found their place upon the chart. The reckoning of the Nina made her 440 leagues distant from the Canaries. We could see the leagues here in this situation. So moving on, the question here is, what is the meaning of those leagues that have been used in the passage? That's the first one. That's the first line where we see the first line, the third line, and the last line. Okay. So if you look at the answers here, it said, what is the meaning? It said a unit of distance. We could see that it is a unit of distance. They use it as showing how far it is. Okay, so it said 19 September continued on and sailed day and night, 25 leagues. That means they are telling us the distance that they've sailed. Okay, so experiencing a calm, that they're experiencing a calmness of the sea, how they sail. All right, so the next line, when it was being shown, that's the third line. It said this day at 10 o'clock a pelican came on board, and in the evening another. These birds are not accustomed to go 20 leagues from land. That means They are not accustomed to go 20 distance. That's a unit of distance. That is how far they can go. So, and the last place that leagues were being used, or was being used rather, I said, looking at the last paragraph, which says, yeah, the pilot found their places upon the chart. The reckoning of the Nina made her 440 leagues distant from the Canaries. So that means they're telling us the units of distance. That's 440. So moving on to this question, he said, what is the meaning, if you look at number 3, what is the meaning of the word league as it is used in this passage? An organization, a unit of distance, the captain of a ship, the depth of a body of water. So we are using this. If you look at the question, he said, if you look at the instruction, read the following passage and then answer the questions. That means it is based on the passage. So we can't say there is an organization, because organization, looking at it, does not even rhyme with what we have in the passage. The captain of a ship cannot talk about the league. We can't say we have 20 leagues, that's 20 captains. No. The depth of a body of water, no. It can't be. Because the pelicans that we talked about, the two pelicans that we talked about, that's the two birds that landed on the boat. It's not, they didn't land in the water. So definitely it's talking about the unit of distance. Looking at number 3, let's look at question 3. It says, which of the following lines from the passage calls the author's credibility into question? Which of the following lines from the passage calls the author's credibility into questions? Option A, the reckoning of the Nina made her 440 leagues distant from the Canaries. B, it drizzled without wind, which is a sure sign of land. C, wrote down 22. D, we shall examine this part upon our return. If you look at the answer here, it says, which of the following lines from the passage calls the author's credibility into action? That is, it drizzled without wind, which is a sure sign of land. He said this statement is based, if you look at the explanation here, he said this statement is based on superstition or unscientific reason, while light rain might suggest atmospheric changes. Claiming it as a sure sign of land is not reliable evidence. So going back to this place, so what is that thing? What is that thing that makes the author, that brings out the author's idea? He said it drizzles without wind, which is a sure sign of land. You know, if there is no land around, according to the history, if there is no land around, then definitely there will be something called the heavy kind of wind on if they are sailing on water. So with this, they are trying to let us know what Christopher Columbus in his diary had said, and how it calls the author's credibility into question. That is, questioning what he has written, questioning what he has written in the diary, what it is in the diary. It drizzle without wind, which you can't say it drizzle without wind. You can't say it actually gives a sign that yes, there is a land around it. Okay, so that's questions that we can see when it comes to European exploration of the Americans. So it's talking about how they sailed, all right, how they moved through the water, and questions to come out, and questions can come in this form as well, giving us an excerpt, taking us an excerpt from the history and asking us questions on them.